Hey guys, what is going on? LegoMan123 are back with another video, and welcome back to another tier listing making video, where today in this episode, I'll be ranking my favorite Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 3, Book 3 Fire episodes. But I just want to quickly say, before I actually get into the tier listing making part of the video, with this tier list, you may see a couple of episodes or pictures from the other seasons of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and the reason being is because when I was trying to look for one, I specifically tried to look for one with just Season 3 episodes in it. I did find a couple, but they were missing a few episodes, and I wanted to have all the episodes instead of having part 1, what basically covers all the parts, because that would have been really annoying. So then I did find one, but the problem was I'd included both Season 1 and 2, but it doesn't worry me too much because I'll be only ranking Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 3, Book 3 Fire. So without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off, we have The Awakening, and I really did enjoy this episode because this happened after a few weeks after the events of the final episode in Season 2, and Aang wakes up in a Fire Nation ship, so he's really confused on what's happening, and the rest of Team Avatar and a couple of Water Tribe members, they actually infiltrated a Fire Nation ship, so they know what's going on, but Aang is really confused on what's happening. I also really like how Aang is still struggling with the injuries he did have in the final episode of Season 2. I like how he just didn't heal straight away with the injuries. I thought that was really cool. And then Aang gets his whole head around they infiltrated a Fire Nation ship. I thought that was definitely really cool, and I find it pretty funny how he actually did grow some hair. I thought that was pretty funny. And then the whole sort of world of Avatar: The Last Airbender think Aang is dead, so he has to kind of go undercover. So he has to put his glider into the ground, so they know he's actually dead. So for that, I might put it into first position in Amazing. Then we have the Headband, and Aang is still undercover because people don't know that the Avatar is alive. So he has to have a headband on so he can actually hide his arrow. So he decides to go to a school of other Fire Nation sort of people. I thought that was definitely really cool, Aang going to a school, because he's sort of at that age level to actually go to a school. I thought that was definitely really cool. He also gets a couple of friends there as well, and he gets not into a fight, but this kid tries to fight him, but he uses some really cool sort of airbending moves, and then he has this party in a cave where Team Avatar and him are actually hiding out. I thought the party was definitely really cool because in these sort of Fire Nation schools, you can't do a lot because they're you can't dance, you can't tap your feet around, so definitely really strict. And how Aang actually taught the students to be yourself and be free was definitely a really nice message. And then I did like the dance between Aang and Katara, so I might put that in possibly maybe maybe first position in Amazing. Then we have the Painted Lady, and this happened after the events of the previous episode because Team Avatar had to fly away because they almost did get caught by the headmaster and a couple of the teachers from the Fire Nation school. So then they went to this small village, and it was a pretty depressing village because they really didn't have a lot because the Fire Nation built this really sort of building where it polluted all the water, it basically destroyed everything. So then Katara becomes the Painted Lady, where she actually does bring hope to the sort of people of that village. I thought that was really cool, and then I like how Aang actually does discover that out, and he's the only one. So then they do this whole sort of trick on the village because the village is actually getting in trouble by, I believe, some Fire Nation soldiers. So they have to actually sort of trick the soldiers and make them run away. I thought that was definitely a really nice, interesting message. So I might put that in possibly maybe third position in Amazing. Then we have Saka's Master. Now I thought this was a really interesting episode, and I did like how they dedicated it to Saka because he's not an elemental master. He doesn't control any sort of element, and I really liked how they actually took the time into having an episode just dedicated to Saka, learning sword sort of skills and all that. I thought that was definitely really cool, and constructing his own sword. I really did enjoy that part of it. And then the whole training part was definitely really cool. And then the final sort of battle between him and Master, I thought that was definitely really cool. So I might possibly put that in maybe third position in Amazing. Then we have the beach, and this basically has four people in it. It has Azula, Ty Lee, May, and Zuko, so it doesn't have any of Team Avatar in it. And this takes place on a beach where Zuko and Azula, plus their mother and their father, they went on this trip to like the beach. They had a good time there, but then it did change as they grew up and all that. And I did like how those four, Azula, Ty Lee, May, and Zuko, actually went back there. I thought that was definitely really interesting. And they like went to this sort of cabin at the beach, and like they interrupt this sort of party. I thought that was definitely really interesting, and those four definitely get in a lot of trouble together. And then at the end, they had like this whole sort of part at the campfire where they were talking about their feelings to one another, like as in their like emotional feelings, how they're feeling and all that, like angry, sad, and like just being personal about their life and actually expressing it to their friends. I thought that was definitely really emotional, and I did like how Zuko had this really nice part about like him doubting himself. I thought that was definitely really cool. So I might possibly put that in maybe fourth position in amazing. Then we have the Avatar and the Fire Lord. Now this was telling the story of Avatar Roku and the previous Fire Lord, which was Sozin. I thought it was definitely a really nice sort of backstory for Avatar Roku, and like how he learned the four elements, and like his best friend was the Fire Lord at that time, which is something pretty serious. And then like we learned that at the end of that episode, Avatar Roku is actually a descendant. Well, not a descendant. Avatar Roku is actually related to Zuko, which is definitely pretty mind-blowing, because then is like Aang actually related to him? A lot of confusing stuff about that whole part, but I thought that was definitely really shocking to actually know that Zuko was related to Avatar Roku on his mother's side. And then it was quite sad how Avatar Roku actually died. He died from like getting intoxicated by like the fumes of a volcano, because they were trying to save it. Well, Roku was trying to save it, but then Sozin actually came and helped him. But then when Roku actually got shot, he actually got hurt pretty badly by like the fumes. He was starting to like lose his eyesight and all that. It was definitely a really serious moment, and I thought like Sozin was actually going to save his like really lifetime friend, but then he's like pretty upset. Like he's like, without you, all my plans can now be possible, which was definitely really serious, because he's like your best friend. You're just gonna like let him die. So that was definitely really emotional. So I might possibly put that in maybe like second position in amazing. Then we have the Runaway, and this was where Toph actually used her like earthbending to get like a lot of money and actually like scam people in the streets of like this small town. I thought it was definitely quite serious, because gambling can be definitely a serious topic to talk about, and how they actually involved it in this episode was quite interesting. I thought it was cool. And then I like how Katara is like telling Toph to actually like stop doing, you're gonna get in trouble. So she's being quite motherly to her, and I thought that was definitely really serious. So for that, I might possibly put it in maybe like second last position in amazing. And then I liked how we did get introduced to Combustion Man. And then we have the Puppet Master, and this was a really dark episode, because we learned about this waterbender who learned how to like control the blood in somebody's body, because half of your blood is like, well, half of your body is mostly water. So that was definitely really serious. They'll actually see the person do it with the sound. It's just really spooky. And I did like how like Katara actually did learn how to actually do this, and then she actually did it and then regretted it. So I thought that was really interesting. But then the Puppet Master's backstory was definitely really deep, because she did pretty much lose all her friends and her family, because in the Southern Water Tribe, like, they were defending it, and every time, like, the Fire Nation came, they kept losing more and more, until, I believe his name was, like, Hama, her name, Hama, something like that, was the last one. So it was definitely really sad to actually see that happen, and her backstory was quite deep, but I kind of wish she didn't, like, just go for innocent people, because the people in the actual village, they were getting controlled by her, because her name was the Puppet Master. Like, she put him in a sort of dungeon. I really didn't like that, because they were just innocent people. They didn't really care about, like, the soldiers and all that, like, invading it. So I kind of wish she only just went for, like, the soldiers, not just innocent children and people. So I might possibly put that in last position in amazing. Then we have Nightmares and Daydreams, and this was definitely a really strange but funny episode, because Aang is getting like really stressed and sort of anxiety about like facing the Fire Lord. So he doesn't want to have sleep because like he has to face him, and he can't go back to sleep because he keeps having these really strange nightmares about facing the Fire Lord. I thought it was definitely really interesting, but after a while it starts to get pretty bad because he starts having like daydreams. He sees like Appa and Momo in like samurai armor about to fight each other, which is pretty strange for a daydream. And like the nightmares, he has like the Fire Lord. He's all sort of like hooked up with like a really nice sort of hairdo, and then like the Fire Lord is, you're not wearing any pants in one of the dreams, and then he's like, you didn't do your math homework. Definitely really strange to face the Fire Lord actually saying that, but I thought it was definitely really funny. So I might possibly put it in perfect because I did like how Katara was actually trying to help him like cope with this. Then we have the Day of the Black Sun Part 1, The Invasion. I thought this was definitely a really cool episode because we see that Saka is actually becoming a really nice sort of leader because he's telling like the Water Tribe and Team Avatar and then some Earthbenders as well to like what they're actually going to do when they get to the Fire Nation, like how they're going to invade it. Really nice and definitely really cool for Saka to actually do that. And then once they do get there, they do this really nice battle with like, they have sort of submarines, like they go under water so they don't get caught. Definitely really cool. And then they have this really nice battle while like making their way up to like the main kingdom of the Fire Nation. I thought it was definitely a really enjoyable battle, so I might possibly put that in maybe like second position in perfect. Then we have the Day of the Black Sun Part 2, The Eclipse. Now this was a pretty cool episode because once Aang and like Team Avatar actually get to the sort of kingdom of the Fire Nation, we learned that the Fire Lord isn't actually there because previously we learned that Azula actually told the Fire Lord that there was an eclipse coming and like Team Avatar actually planned to invade. So I thought that was definitely really cool because we learned that in Season 2 that Azula, Ty Lee, and May were actually disguised as the sort of Kyoshi warrior, so they got a lot of information about that. I thought that was definitely really interesting, and how she actually told the Fire Lord about Team Avatar's plan was definitely quite cool. And then like Aang is pretty upset because he wants to fight the Fire Lord so he can actually end the war. And then there's this really nice scene to actually finish the episode off where Zuko actually faces his father and says like, I'm gonna join the Avatar at the end of the day. But then during this, like Fire Lord Sozin doesn't have any sort of like firebending because the eclipse actually happened. So Zuko was actually gonna face him with his swords. But then like as he begins to walk off, Sozin actually brings up his mom and like he gets quite upset about that, so he's about to face him, but then he shoots lightning and then Zuko redirects it, which was definitely really cool to actually see. And then he does shoot his own father and walks off. So I thought it was definitely a really nice ending, and Zuko's in a hot air balloon making his way over to the Western Air Temple to meet up with Team Avatar. So I might possibly put this episode in second position in perfect. Then we have the Western Air Temple, and this happened after Team Avatar actually retreated here after they failed at the sort of Fire Nation. So I really did like that, how they actually did retreat there. And then we have Zuko actually did follow him there because he wanted to actually join Team Avatar and help Aang and the rest of Team Avatar actually defeat the Fire Lord. He does try to convince everyone, and everyone is actually convinced by him except for Katara, which I think is definitely reasonable because after everything he actually done to Team Avatar, including Aang and like killing him almost, and like after his like whole sort of metamorphosis stage, he was almost on the good side, but then he did join Azula. So I could definitely see why Katara isn't like so forgiving as the rest. And then he does actually save them from Combustion Man, actually proving that he is on the good side and like he wants to actually help Team Avatar. So I might possibly put that in to fourth position in amazing. Then we have the Firebending Masters, and this was when Zuko was just about to train Aang to actually learn Firebending, but we learned that Zuko isn't actually filled by like anger and sort of hatred to actually use his Firebending, so he actually has to go with Aang to the original firebenders, so I thought that was definitely really cool, and they do learn, like, what firebending actually is. It's not just, like, power and sort of destruction, and you don't have to use, like, hate and anger to actually use it, so I thought that was definitely really cool, and we actually get to see 2 dragons, sort of the original firebenders, in this really cool sort of Aztec-inspired area with, like, sort of Aztec sort of people. I really did like how they, like, looked with their really cool designs, and I thought that was definitely great. And then the dragons, I believe, are like red and short. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And one is blue and then one is red, and they actually, like, shoot Aang and Zuko, but they don't actually kill them. They have this really cool sort of tornado sort of fire thing going up in the air, and then we see Zuko and Aang actually in there, and there's this really nice sort of beautiful moment where, like, the fire changes colors, and they actually do learn the truth about it. So I thought that was definitely really cool. So I might possibly put that into maybe maybe 4th position in amazing. Then we have the Boiling Rock Part 1, and this is where Zuko and Saka actually go on this journey together to actually save some water tribes who actually were captured after the events of the invasion. So I thought that was definitely really cool, and, like, this prison isn't just sort of any prison. It's actually, like, in this sort of middle of an island. If you try to escape from, like, the water, you can actually, like, burn to death because it's so hot. I thought that was definitely really interesting. And then I like how Zuko and Saka actually went there. They actually get reunited with Suki, and Zuko and Suki have this really nice sort of moment together, like, where they actually apologize to one another. Well, Zuko actually does apologize to, like, destroying the village. So I thought that was definitely a nice scene. And then we learned that, like, while they were actually in the prison, these sort of people who were captured in the invasion weren't actually there yet. So I thought that was definitely really interesting. And we get, like, introduced to, like, the warden and all that. So I thought that was definitely a nice episode. So I might possibly put it into maybe 5th position in amazing. Then we have the Boiling Rock Part 2, and this is where, like, the people from the invasion were actually taken to that prison, so they have to do this whole sort of breakout thing. And in the previous episode, they have this breakout with, like, this guy they actually meet, but they actually get it's actually a failed attempt. So I thought that was definitely really interesting because it just shows you can't, like, succeededly do something the first try. So I thought that was definitely really cool. And then they pull off this really nice sort of escape plan. I thought it was definitely really interesting, and, like, May, Ty Lee, and Azula actually do go there. And then I really did like how May actually, like, was about to fight Azula because the other of Team Avatar, which were sort of Suki, Saka, and Zuko, were actually getting away with the prisons. And then, like, Azula's about to stop them, but then Mei Lee says, I love Zuko more than I fear you. I thought it was definitely a really emotional scene because, like, we're seeing that instead of May actually saying, no, I fear you more than I love Zuko, she actually says the complete opposite. And she's, like, Azula's about to shoot May, but then Ty Lee uses her sort of really nice sort of move where she can actually sort of disable the sort of ability to actually use her firebending and lightning. So I thought that was definitely really interesting, and it just shows how May isn't just, like, on the same side as Azula, because Azula does use fear to control people, and then she does get captured because, like, the guards at the Boiling Rock actually help Azula up, and, like, she does put Ty Lee and May in the sort of Boiling Rock cells. So I might possibly put that ahead of Part 1, and I might put it into 5th position. Then we have the Southern Raiders, and this was a really sad scene, or episode, because we get to learn the truth about Katara's and Sokka's mom, and, like, how she got sort of taken away. So I thought it was definitely really emotional because she's actually flying on Appa with Zuko and, like, explaining the story, so it just makes it even more emotional, actually talking to someone who actually is a firebender. So I thought that was definitely really interesting. And then Zuko actually does tell, like, Katara who actually might have killed her mother. So I thought that was definitely really interesting how he did know that, because he's been such a firebender for so long and he knows all the sort of history of it. And then Katara actually does the wrong thing. She actually goes for the wrong person, and she, like, uses bloodbending and all that, which was definitely really shocking because, like, she was really angry and upset when she actually did do it in the puppet master, and she, like, pretty much swore never to do it, but then she does use it and definitely does regret it. So I did like that scene because, like, she uses bloodletting after she, like, sort of promised herself not to use it, and she does regret it, which I think is definitely fair. But then they actually find the right person, and then Katara uses this really cool move where she, like, stops the rain, and then she has, like, this sort of force field of water, like, with the guy who actually killed her mother, and then Zuko and Katara in there, and then she creates, like, these icicle things, like stakes, to actually kill the guy, and, like, she's about to do it, but then she stops because she knows it's not the right thing to do, just killing an innocent person. So I thought that was definitely reasonable. And then, like, while Zuko is actually in there, you can actually see his face expression saying, she could have done that to me, like, at any moment, but she didn't. I thought that was definitely pretty funny because it's a very quick scene where he does that face expression, but it does tell a lot. And then, when they come back, like, Katara's really upset about it, and then, like, Aang says, killing someone isn't, like, always the right thing to do. But then Zuko actually says, well, what are you going to do about my father? I thought that was definitely really interesting. So I might possibly put this episode into maybe 4th position in amazing. Then we have the Amber's Island players, and I thought this was definitely a really interesting episode to actually have in this series because it explains books 1 and 2 in such a funny and just a really interesting way, because they have, like, the characters all exaggerated and just really funny and, like, not how they originally were in the TV series. So I thought that was definitely really interesting because they're, like, the exact opposites of the characters, what we know and love. I thought it was definitely really interesting, and just how they actually explain the story from books 1 and 2 in such a short and sort of really funny sort of segment is definitely really cool. And I did like seeing Team Avatar's reactions to these. I thought it was definitely really cool. And I did like how they actually did split it up with this really funny episode, because instead of straight after the Southern Raiders, they just have the 4 parts for the final episodes of Avatar The Last Airbender. They actually split it up to, like, sort of give suspense and, like, sort of just something to actually look forward to. I thought it was definitely really interesting, and also to build the hype up for the final episode. So I thought it was definitely really cool. And then at the end of the episode, Katara and Aang have this moment where they're actually talking, and, like, Aang goes in for the kiss, which I thought was definitely really cool. But then Katara says, she says something, and I thought it was definitely quite a sad moment for Aang, because he was just trying to, like, cheer her up and all that, and then he, like, sort of, like, hits himself and says, wait, what are you doing? So I might possibly put this in, like, maybe 4th position in perfect. Then we have Sozon's comment part 1, the Phoenix King, and this is where, like, Team Avatar are on the beach where Zuko, Azula, and their parents actually went while they were kids. So I thought it was definitely really cool how they were actually there, and, like, they were having this nice moment where Zuko and Aang were actually training together. Like, Zuko was telling him, like, be more ferocious and all that. I thought that was going to be really cool. And then, like, they actually have a bit of fun because, like, they've been through so much throughout the past couple of episodes. They just want to have a bit of fun, and they were, like, doing sand castles, they were swimming and all that. So I thought it was definitely a nice moment. But then Zuko actually does begin chasing Aang, and I thought it was definitely quite strange how he actually did do this. But then I kind of felt like he was actually doing it to get, like, Aang, like, prepped and ready to actually face the Fire Lord. And then, like, Katara has a go at him, but then, like, Katara says we were going to actually face the Fire Lord after Sozon's comment, and, like, Aang was going to do that as well, because they all did agree to that. But then Zuko does bring up this point where, like, you wouldn't be able to do that, because when Sozon's comment does come, the Fire Nation and Ozai are actually going to destroy the world of Avatar and, like, just rebuild it from the ground up. So then Aang has to choose if he's going to kill the Fire Lord, so he doesn't actually do this plan. So I thought it was definitely really interesting. And then, like, how Team Avatar were going to do it together, and, like, how Aang says this is going to be the most toughest thing we've done together. I thought it was definitely a really nice moment. So I might possibly put it into 1st position in amazing. Then we have the Old Masters, and this is when we meet the Old Masters and previous sort of teachers for Aang when he was learning the 4 elemental the elementals. So I thought it was definitely really interesting. And then we learned that they're actually in search of Aang, because in the previous episode, Aang actually goes on this mysterious island, and he is trying to get advice from the previous sort of avatars in this episode, the Old Masters, and, like, Team Avatar actually go on a hunt to actually find him, because they basically trust Zuko to actually do this because he has experience in like trying to hunt Team Avatar. So I thought it was definitely really interesting how they did trust him. And like they run into the same person where they actually met in season 1, where like she has this sort of pet where it can actually sniff your scent from pretty much anything you like have or wear. But then they discover that Aang's scent doesn't exist because he's not dead, he's just sort of like missing in a sort of way. But then they go to like Ba Sing Se to actually try find Iroh from like the scent from the sort of creature they just previously tried to get the scent of Aang from. And like they actually get sort of not taken prisoner, but they actually get surrounded by the 4 sort of old masters. So I thought that was definitely really interesting, and like how they actually take him to the camp of the White Lotus, which I thought was really interesting, and just hearing the name of it does sound really cool. But I do wish we got maybe a few more hints and clues to this in previous episodes, and we got a bit more history about it, because we just get like straight away introduced to it, because I'm not really sure why we actually do get introduced, but I thought it was definitely really cool, and how like Zuko and Iroh have this really nice moment of getting like reunited together, and then like Zuko says you have to sort of like face the Fire Lord, but then Iroh says a brother killing a brother, that's like pretty brutal, and then he says like Aang has to do it. So I thought it was definitely really cool. So I might possibly put this into maybe like last position in perfect. Then we have Into the Inferno, and this is where like Aang discovers that the island he is on is actually moving, and so then he goes under the water to actually discover what it is, and he learns that it's actually a lion turtle, which is a sort of mythical creature he does learn about in an episode in season 2 called The Library. So I thought it was definitely really interesting how he did like learn about it in a previous sort of episode, and then he actually does see it in person in this episode. I thought it was definitely really interesting. And then Azula actually like has this really strange moment with her mother, because it's like a hallucination. So I thought it was definitely really interesting with that part, and like she does go a little sort of crazy, not like fully crazy, but just a little crazy, because like she sees her mother. And then Zuko and Katara actually plan to actually go and face her at the sort of Fire Nation Kingdom, which I think was definitely a really nice moment there. And then Suki, Toph, and Saka actually decide to actually destroy some of like the Fire Nation ships. So I thought that was definitely really cool, and how each of the sort of members of Team Avatar had a job to do. So I might possibly put this into maybe 4th position in perfect. Then finally we have Avatar Aang, and wow, this is one pretty perfect finale. Like 3 of my favorite moments are in this episode. So it basically starts off with like Aang is like on this rock, like just waiting for the Fire Lord, because before that he actually gets like the power of energy bending from the lion turtle. So I thought it was definitely really interesting. But at that sort of moment, the audience doesn't know that he actually did get that power. We just have like this green sort of light what goes onto his forehead and like his chest, and like Suki, Saka, and Toph are actually destroying the Fire Nation ship, so they can't actually destroy sort of like the parts of sort of the Earth Kingdom and all that. So I thought it was definitely really interesting, like the environment. So I thought that was definitely great. And then we have Zuko and Katara actually face Azula, which I thought was definitely great. Like the fight between Azula and Zuko was definitely great, and it was an Agni Kai, which is like a traditional sort of firebending sort of duel. So I thought that was definitely great. And then the final battle between Aang and the Fire Lord was definitely a great moment. A lot of really nice sort of scenes there, and to end it off, instead of killing the Fire Lord, Aang actually does use the energy bending where he actually got from the lion turtle, and he also did get the Avatar state back after he like got pushed into a rock, and like the jagged rock actually re-triggered it, which I thought was definitely really cool, because without the Avatar state, I don't think he could have like bet the Fire Lord, because like he has this really cool moment where he gets all the 4 elements, and like he gets it in this sort of circle sort of part. I thought it was definitely really cool, like some rings of like rocks, fire, and then like he has this cool moment where he's about to actually kill the Fire Lord with like using the elements, but then he decides not to because it's not the right way. And then, to finish it off, he does use energy bending, which was such a great moment. Like, with the whole lights and, like, the shakiness of the camera and the music. And then we have, like, maybe possibly a few hours after the events, we have, like, Aang and Zuko have this moment where, like, they were talking, like, I can't believe, like, a year ago I was hunting you. And then, like, Aang says, I can't believe 100 years ago I was still frozen in ice. And then, like, they say, we're friends, and then they hug, which I think was a great moment, because he's right, like, a year ago, Zuko was actually hunting Aang, and now they're, like, friends, which I think is definitely great. And then, like, Zuko actually does become king, which I thought was definitely great, and he does definitely deserve it after everything he did go with his, like, redemption arc, helping Team Avatar, defeating Azula. And then we have this really nice moment where, like, Zuko actually, like, says 100 years of war has divided us and all that. I thought it was definitely a great speech. And then he says, please, the real hero is Aang, which I think is definitely true, but he is also a hero because he did sort of help defeat Azula, but Katara did actually help also, because she did use her lightning, and she did cheat and try to actually go for Katara. And then, to finish it off, the episode, we have Aang and Katara have this really nice sort of moment and kiss. I thought it was definitely a great moment, and just a perfect ending to such an amazing and incredible TV series. I would come back and do a couple of changes, so I might move part 3 of Sozin's comment into the Inferno into maybe 2nd position in perfect, and then I might move the Old Masters into 4th position, and then move part 1 into 3rd position, and then move that one there, and then I might have the Amber Island players into 1st position in Amazing. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video as much as I did making it, and also sharing my thoughts and opinions on Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 3, Book 3, Fire, because I really did enjoy doing that. Now, just quickly before I go, because I know this video is very long at the moment, I just want to thank you guys so much if you guys did stick to the end, and I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. And as always, guys, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and can I say so? Goodbye!